slightly and suddenly things go in your favor. So let's see how we go. It's Tropical Sacrifice here for map number 1. It's a fresh best of 3. And in the top right, in the blue trunks, it is ButAlways.
And over in the bottom left-hand side, he's looking for his redemption arc here today to try to make it into the playoffs. It's the Red Zerg, GogojOey. Going to be kicking it off with the pool there, Zeph. So wants to try to get a little bit of Zergling pressure going. And I think that's something he did yesterday as well. And he actually got like a fair bit of damage done with the initial couple of lings. And I was like, this game's going great for him. And that's how I felt about like both of the games pretty much. And then, you know, like I said, carrier's pretty good.
Yeah, that's all the analysis you need in those games.
Yeah.
Like, carry a good unit. GG.
It felt wrong, Zeph. It felt wrong. I was like, he was doing so well. It was so sad.
That's always the way. But yeah, spot on. This is what he did as the opening on the map last time, and he is going to open with just 4 lings here, but always has come in with the scout right away though as well. So he shouldn't be caught unawares by any means. And we also don't see a big commitment to those lings from GogojOey either. So it's going to be an early scout. He's slowly funneling that gas into his bank, but he's not, you know, racing for speed or anything like that. So
yep, has to expand on towards that third base location. He's going to chuck his third hatch at the natural, finally deals with that pesky probe, and in the meanwhile you're seeing the lings get in towards the main base, but always quite happy to open things up and show everything that he's doing. He's now moving in towards the Stargate tech and just waiting for this adept to head up in here and try to clean out these lings.
So Joey's going to try and keep an eye on what's going on here for as long as possible. Just be a bit of an annoyance as we see things start to take shape here for ButAlways. You can usually bet, all right, probably an Oracle going to come out here. Got to get my queens, got to get my lings, and set myself up for a really good mid to late game. So I do like that Joey comes out and he goes, you know what, let's do a pull first again, because if you know your opponent likes that later game play, you may as well try and throw a spanner in the works early on and get any advantage that you can, because it can be really hard to slow down a macro Protoss, especially on some of these maps where 3 bases is something that's actually quite easy to hold on to. So we'll see how we go with these oracles as the first one ends up popping out. But for the moment, ButAlways been a bit of a nuisance, isn't he?
100%. And it's not just in the server as well. Like, that cam looks like it's from 2005, and I'm on his Wikipedia, and it says that he's got about 20 grands total winnings from playing StarCraft, but he still can't buy himself a cam that is less than 10 years old.
He doesn't have time to be messing around with webcams. Goodness gracious.
He's a pro
He's got to
gamer.
grind the ladder, man.
That's it. Yep. 100%. Look at this Oracle zooming around there, trying to set up a couple of drones. He's done pretty well there. A little bit of hull damage on the Oracle, but he's, you know, nothing too upsetting. Gonna start to get that third Nexus pumping sooner rather than later, and maybe have a couple of those Adepts in for safety, or the Stalkers try to wedge those in and deal with any potential lings. But you're not going to see anything of the sort out of Joey here. Just droning up pretty heavily at this point, waiting on that Overlord to go for that scout into the main and get a bit of a read on what's going on.
Yep, gonna poke away at that Overlord, which has seen the gas timings, which is real nice, and that Overlord coming into the main aspires to get deep enough to confirm that we're going to be going Sky Toss here again. He may just make it. A Stalker doesn't actually fire that quickly, so he should be able to slip in there and see, yep, okay, Fleet Bacon on the way. Twilight Council's Forge. He's seen all the tech now, so really nice scouting from Joey, and he should know, all right, I can power up a little bit here, but I know what's coming.
Yeah, we'll see. Oh, the cancel.
Oh,
Very
okay.
tricky. Very, very tricky. So it's going to be the cancel. He already had the Twilight and the Forge coming. So this is where you're probably going to see a pivot. You're already starting to see a little bit of a flood of gateways here, but always maybe trying to make Joey feel comfortable enough to tech up very quickly. Maybe try to go hive at like 8 to 10 minutes or something like that and really get the spy units pumping or some Vipers or something because the carriers troubled him quite greatly yesterday. So but always, if he's able to just get a really big gateway timing on in here, that really might catch Joey off guard if he doesn't read it properly.
Yeah, really smart. Just to go,
Ooh.
okay, I'm actually going to do the opposite of what you expect me to do now, similar to what we've seen Haas do to win those games up against Rex. Just actually, take a bit of a left turn strategically and change things up because Joey is now going for a Spire, and what we have is a hell of a lot of gateways and Blink +1. So that might be a little bit of an interesting decision. It would be great if he could morph an Overseer and just get confirmation of what's actually coming down. At the moment, he's relying on the overlords that are floating around the bases and the odd link poking around to see what's going on. But, in the game of information, you do actually want to make sure that you've confirmed what you're up against.
Couple of gateway units active out on the map, just trying to clear out these creep tumors. A little bit of a stasis ward getting set up in the back line, but well baited out by the Lings there as we got a Templar Archives starting to be worked on here for ButAlways so we can dump all that gas that he was initially going to send in towards the carriers. Lings make it in over towards his fourth base location, but should be enough gateway units to kind of clean this up. Good Blink Micro onto the high ground as well. And Charge is the immediate follow-up, so this is going to be a big ball of gateway units, charge lots, multiple plus upgrades to the attack, and maybe some Archons, and just big charge lot reinforcements, I'm assuming.
Hmm. So it looks like
Mutas.
Joey, once again, he likes this idea of the upgraded melee, and it is actually mutas. Okay. You right. All right, let's see how he
Well, we
goes with
didn't see
this.
this yesterday, so this is his adjustment off
Yeah.
of the information of seeing the carriers.
Yeah, okay. Let's see how this goes, because he's actually going to invest a fair bit into this, having that +1 air weapons in the production tab as well. He's only seen the Oracle so far. He's definitely got some surface area to cover because there's 4 bases out here for ButAlways, but we're seeing some static D coming down here on the more forward positions.
Hmm.
So let's see how ButAlways goes with the air threat, because he's actually pretty well prepared, but he's going to need some stalkers to help chase this around, I think.
A couple of cannons sprinkled in here. You're going to warp in some stalkers. This gateway wall off being worked on a little bit. Just going to depower a couple of those warp gates. Now you're getting a wave of roaches to try to defend this attack as the gateway unit's starting to come in on the front of GogojOey. He's got a lot invested in these mutas, so we'll see if he's going to pull them back to try to defend this attack or whether he's going to go for damage. At the moment, really just trying to harass the reinforcements and pick off some of these stalkers that are on their way through the map.
He wants time for those roaches that he's trying to churn out to get in here, because mutas aren't going to cut it against this army, and they're not really able to do that much damage back at home at the moment. He's trying to pick off what he can and distract a little bit on these stalker reinforcements, but I'm actually surprised those mutas lived as long as they did. They are fairly bruised though, but looks like there's just enough roaches out now to make this go away. However, that attack upgrade finishing here, so he'll have +2, whereas Joey only has a +1 melee. He's going to press the issue here a little bit and see if he can get some attention away from those mutas. Nice snipe on those couple of Ravagers for ButAlways though.
100%. Going to start falling back. In the meanwhile, though, the Muta's starting to dive in the back lines, pick off a couple of probes. You're seeing ButAlways starting to react to that, though. He's pumped himself out a Phoenix or two, and he's trying to add a second Stargate so that he can start to have an answer for these Mutas in the air. And at least for the time being, in small enough numbers, these Mutas are going to be dealt with. Now starting to work on that carrier transition for ButAlways, and this is kind of looking like yesterday, where he's just done good enough to keep himself alive on 4 bases. And this is where he's going to start working on the carriers. And this was something that was harder for Joey to deal with yesterday. But this time, very different kind of composition from him. Really working on a big ball of mutas. He's being pretty active with this Roach Ravager as well.
Coming up this ramp, trying to find a good position on this army. He feels like he's got enough to chew through it, but I'm not sure about that. That's a lot of charge lots, a lot of blink support as well. He's actually doing the forward blink, realizing that, hey, you've actually well overextended here. You're way off creep. Those mutas are going into the main base, so trying to do damage. They do have +1. He's on top of the stalkers. Some of them are starting to go down, but there's 11 more on the way. And I have to say, Pilsky, I was unsure about this move to keep making the mutas, but he might finally be able to maybe start making it worthwhile. However, he has lost a lot of them, so I'm really not sure that this is a strategy that he's going to be able to make work. I mean, if you look at the amount he's spent on them versus how much damage they've gotten done, and now with these roaches as well, it's been a bit of a non-event.
Yeah, I like the idea, but just not controlling the mutas well enough. He loses way too many in both of the engagements so far this game, and now the Roach's numbers really starting to thin. You're getting ButAlways feeling confident enough to start moving onto creep, and really it's GogojOey in panic mode right now, really trying to make enough lings, enough Roaches, and pump out a couple of mutas in the meanwhile to be able to keep himself alive.
What is good for Joey is that he's got a really strong economy. He's got 90-odd drones, and he's getting another base in that 6 o'clock position. So he is expanding. He is getting some upgrades in, but his army comp just doesn't cut it against this. He's going to have such a hard time engaging that. The mutas, they might get a cancel here. Very nicely done, but he is sort of struggling with those phoenixes now.
Yeah. Getting the range upgrade as well. So the Phoenix numbers really starting to build up. Another wave of Stalkers here. Zoning those mutas out of the main base. And again, Joey going to try to attack the bottom side with his ground army while the mutas try to get some damage done. But the angle on these Archons, these last couple of fights, like these 3 Archons are absolutely shredding the mutas whenever they're getting a couple of shots off. And in the meanwhile, the Phoenix just kind of ranging a lot of those mutas and kiting them.
Yeah. These mutas are having a really hard time being cost efficient, and I do like the aggression from Joey. He's still trying to get other bits and pieces done, pressuring other bases, splitting up his roaches, but always is meeting him at every turn. The mutas can't find an angle. The ground army got shredded. He's forced to make 30 more and 5 spine crawlers just to help with the defense. He knows that he doesn't have a good army to go head to head with this. So I actually don't know if he can hold on here. This might be the end for Joey.
Yeah, a lot of that supply seems to be soaked up in the mutas, which are just getting kited around the map, run around the map. I don't even think they have good enough numbers to be able to engage the Archons and the Phoenix. Reinforcing Roaches doing a decent job, but it's just not enough, and they're flooding out too incrementally. And unfortunately, with all of those lifts on top of that, that should definitely be the game for ButAlways. He's going to get at least a hatch here, if not the rest as well.
Very well done from ButAlways. He'll take game number 1 on Tropical Sacrifice there by defying his opponent's expectations. This is, I think, a nice way to go, all right, you know what I like in this video game. I do like the air units, but what if I went with the ground units instead?
Yeah.
Crazy concept.
Yeah, he didn't really kind of hit that like critical mass. I thought he was going to go for like a gateway timing, but he still did just go for that 4th nexus, and he was just kind of pressuring and trying to keep himself alive. And after that, I feel like the nail in the coffin, right, was just the 2nd Stargate and just making all those Phoenix really kind of won him the game.
Yeah, ButAlways knew exactly what to do. Really decisive play, weathered the storm that was GogojOey's pressure really well. And yeah, not much more we can say about that, except that we'll see if GogojOey can bring it back in map number 2. But first, as always, we'll take a little break, and we'll be back with you very soon. Greetings, we have returned for some more ZBP action. ButAlways has prevailed so far over GogojOey, but GogojOey we know has it in him to beat this Protosian Overlord. So will map number 2 hold some better strats for him? Will he have a bit more luck against this Skytoss aficionado? Time will tell. Pilsky, what's your vibe? Do you reckon he's
Oh
can do
man,
it?
it feels so hard. Like I look at the head-to-head statistics, and they tell me GogojOey has got a shot. And then I've watched the last 3 games in this tournament because it's very like in between that I get to watch these guys compete in StarCraft. I
Yeah.
feel like I do StarCraft every like 4 months or something, so I get to see like Joey play ButAlways in this tournament, and I'm thinking, yeah, maybe no. It's I'm not really vibing it at the moment, but I'm still rooting for him. I'm hoping,
Yeah.
someone's got to root for him because he's got, obviously we're in Taiwan, Hong Kong now, and we're done with those ROA groups pretty much. So, you got to root for the closest thing to an Australian, and that handle pretty much says it all.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not wrong, actually. GogojOey is the only player from Hong Kong remaining in this tournament. If he gets knocked out, it becomes a show full of Taiwanese players, which, still a good time. But obviously, if he can stick it out and keep some representation there for Hong Kong, that would be sick as well. So, yeah, it does seem like ButAlways is kind of the better player on these couple of days at the moment. I think last game was really cool from him. My thoughts about GogojOey have tended to be around like, well, if he figures out the Skytoss style, surely he can make it happen. But you've got ButAlways, so switching it up a little bit on him to make sure he doesn't become predictable. So I don't know. Let's find out together, chat. We'll kick this off here on Cosmic Sapphire. Our Protoss player here, he's 1-0 up in the series. Can he close it out with a sweet 2-0? This is ButAlways.
And over on the other side of the map, back in Valencia, this man barely didn't make it out of the group in 3rd place. Is destiny doomed to repeat itself? It's the Red Zerg, GogojOey.
Go straight for the 3rd. He really does not like dealing with the probe and the nat, hey, and I can't even blame him. It's the most frustrating thing. So if you know it's going to happen, hell yeah, just go straight for the 3rd. Why not?
I mean, it didn't really feel like ButAlways was playing around the 3rd base being plopped down in that location anyway. Like, I'm sure there's some kind of like shenanigans you can do with maybe an adept timing or something like that, but I feel like ButAlways, the way that these games have been going for him, like he can just play a straight up game. And I feel like if this Protoss man makes it to 3 or 4 bases, gets up 75 probes, I feel like, the 3 games now that I've watched yesterday and today, small sample size, but I feel like once ButAlways gets in that position, like this series is Dunsky.
Yeah, it's really hard to come out on top, to trade well, to knock out that fortified position that he ends up with. And even this, taking the 3rd base as your nat, It's fine, like, it's not the end of the game or anything, obviously, but it is annoying, and like you said, you can take advantage of it as the Protoss player. Even something like the Oracle opening becomes a little bit more annoying because you don't have the creep spread joining the bases. You can't run
Mm,
your drones to the other base. Your queen's got further to walk if one's not quite at that base yet, or it's gotten a little bit far out off the creep. So you have little annoyances that can sort of interrupt your rhythm, but also I think it's nice that if GogojOey comes in going, you know what, I'm just not going to deal with it. This is how I'm going to play it, so I can avoid a bit of that drama. You've already sort of prepared for those eventualities, and you should be pretty on top of it. So, not to worry here for GogojOey, and hopefully he can get a bit of a better foothold in this game because I feel like last game there was nothing he did that really did a lot of damage to ButAlways. He sort of picked off something here, something there, but he
mm.
never won like a good fight, right?
It's kind of like, I don't know. It's hard to make a comparison because I'm thinking about something like in Counter Strike at the moment, where it's like in other esports, sometimes you'll just get players or teams that will just back their style, and then if they lose the series, they go, "Well, I gave it a crack, but I lost." Like, I almost want to see just like some kind of desperation move out of GoGoJoey. Like, NX Dead was doing some crazy dirty builds earlier, trying to fight tooth and nail to stay in the competition. But Joey, it feels like he's just back in his style, even if it means he's going to take a exit out of the group stage here.
And that is in the back of my mind as well, because GogojOey in the past has been the guy to be like, you know what, I'm going to queen walk, or I'm going to make a whole bunch of roaches early and try and do some damage on that third base. So he's not afraid of aggression, but perhaps it's that But always tends to defend it so well that he's not willing to take the risk, especially since they've chosen some of the longer maps.
Mm.
Um, it's just maybe not the best time to be trying to head across the map with a bunch of units.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching NXZ doing some of these more aggressive builds on this map in particular, and that choke is like, it's
Yeah.
like it looks really abysmal for you to try to attack into. Didn't go super well. I'm sure that there's a very specific way you can probably approach that. But either way, hypotheticals aside, I mean, we're going into Lair, we're pumping drones, we're going for a Baneling nest, and meanwhile, but always going into Twilight and Forge after Stargate, adding a couple of gates. And I'm really just expecting this man at this point to just do absolutely nothing funky, to build his gateway units as much as he needs to get himself on 4 bases, and then just vibe out what he wants to go to from there.
Yeah, absolutely. He hasn't let go of his Stargate opening, of course. We saw the Oracle come in, but a bit of a shift to what we saw previously. So he's actually going for the Void Ray, which helps clear up vision. So that makes it difficult for GogojOey to know what the follow-up is. And we see him be a bit active with the lings and stuff, just poking around, seeing, okay, is there a base? Do we have any gas coming in? That kind of thing. But also, as a tool to defend against these things, like ling
Ooh.
attacks, or if he was making roaches, is great as well. So he hasn't
Oh,
really
no.
gotten too many workers here. He's coming in trying to use these banelings, trying to use these lings to get a good hit, but
I like the approach, right? Like, he dives in with the lings. He wants to try to force those probes to evacuate back to the natural and catch them with the 4 Banes, but always doesn't even move his probes at all. And unfortunately, those Banes weren't, right clicked. They were just kind of A moving, and they all crash into Stalkers and get very little done. So, again, I like the approach, but it's done very little damage. And Bud always has now got his wall up over near the third. He's still in a pretty comfortable position. Hydra Den finishes up here for Joey. He seems to really be in the vibe right now of just trickling in 8 to 10 drones at a time and then making another wave of attacking units. So definitely wants to try to slow down, but always before he can get into this critical position that he's had so much success in. But this is where we're really starting to move through the Templar tech, getting ourselves some charge, getting ourselves some Psy Storm and some upgrades. And there's that fourth Nexus.
I feel like Bert always had a premonition there because he went with the Void Ray. He's just like, oh, I know you're probably going to want to throw something at me here real quick, so I'm just going to have that extra tool to defend with. And yeah, like he slapped that down really hard. Now he's got a little bit of a force to push with, But Joey's actually on the other side of the map because he's trying to open it up, get some more pathways for these run bys, especially since there's those wall offs coming in from ButAlways.
He
But
could
he's actually
surround
out of
here.
position now. Yeah, so is this dicey for ButAlways?
He baits out the stasis ward with the Lings, so it seems like Joey's going to be able to get a pretty decent surround. All of those Hydras on the left side are doing so much damage. That just ended up working so well for Joey. The Lings active out on the map trying to take out the rocks, end up catching that whole Gateway army, and the Hydras just absolutely pump all those Gateway units.
That was a bit of an oopsie daisy from ButAlways. Like, if he was going to stick it out there, because he did kind of get stuck, I would have liked to see the recall happen a little bit earlier. I don't know if he didn't quite have the energy, but yeah, that was rough. He lost the Archons there as well, and doesn't have a whole lot left over. Yeah, Joey is starting to push that creep out as well, which I really like. We're seeing some upgrades roll in for him. And it's clear that he wants to be the aggressor here. This is the one thing that was clear in the last game as well. He does not want to sit back against ButAlways. And now that he's taken a good little fight and knocked out some of those units, I think he's pretty keen to keep that momentum rolling. The problem is, can he find an angle?
Yeah, I mean, I saw him have some good positions like this yesterday where he finds some good catches. But again, we've got into this position now where ButAlways, he's got himself that fourth Nexus. He's got himself a lot of static defense, but GogojOey just wants to go straight up the guts here, Zeph.
Ooh, Storm's coming down. Those slow banelings are getting really bruised before they head into these units. They're actually trying to get around these Archons. That's not what they want to pop on. They try to get into the juicy center there, onto the squishy units. They do make some connections, but that was not the best trade with the banelings. The speed kicking in after that engagement was over, and these Hydras trying to retreat a little bit off creep. Link's coming in to help out for a sec, but he's still losing a fair bit of these units on the tail end of that attack. And now, does ButAlways have enough to keep pressing here?
I mean, he's going to keep trading. Knows he's in a good position. Going to storm that little bundle of banelings there. Make sure that those cocoons don't finish. Not many Lings to be able to support a lot of these DPS units, but the Hydra's much more nimble on creep, happy to keep trading with these gateway units. ButAlways, you know, he didn't take any economic damage, so he's again in this nice position, comfortable position, and this is exactly what I saw yesterday, where he's working this gateway army to keep himself alive, to pressure the Zerg, but in the background, really starting to move into that carrier tech.
Ooh, nice use of the storms here, and he's actually gaining some momentum because there's not quite enough Zerg here to wipe this out. The Banelings are going to connect on the Archons again, but they're still standing, and the Archons are going to wipe out the remainder of those light units. And GogojOey needs a second to just sort of get all his stuff together, but now GogojOey is struggling with these Protoss units in the mineral line. There's more charge loss coming in. Ooh,
Yeah.
and we have the Stargate transition in the background.
Yeah, it's not even going to be needed this time around. GogojOey, 0-2, and ButAlways again, 2 O's in pretty clinical fashion there, and as such will be the next player